You walk into camp at dusk, with a kill across your shoulders. Everyone sees it. It is the largest animal anyone has dragged home in weeks, and you brought it back alone, across open country that would have broken a weaker man. You feel it, the pull of every eye in the firelight. And then the strangest thing happens. The people you are about to feed start to laugh at you. They call your kill a bag of bones. They ask why you even bothered. An old woman prods the carcass and says her grandchildren have trapped fatter rabbits than this. Why would they do that? For most of human history, this was not cruelty. It was a lesson. It was your tribe teaching you the single most important thing a man could learn, what he was truly worth, and how little of it had anything to do with the animal on his back. For roughly 300,000 years, your ancestors lived as foragers, hunter-gatherers, people who owned almost nothing, carried what little they had on their bodies, and survived entirely on what the land offered and what the group shared. No money, no titles, no banks, no property, no way to store wealth or buy rank. And in a world like that, one quiet question becomes a matter of survival. What makes one man valuable and another man easy to lose? The modern answer arrives fast. Strength, the best hunter, the one who brings home the most meat. It feels obvious. It is also, as far as the evidence goes, almost exactly backwards. Begin with the hunting itself, because that is where the puzzle starts. In the 1980s and after, the anthropologist Kristen Hawkes spent years measuring how the Hadza actually feed themselves. The Hadza are a foraging people in northern Tanzania, and their men are famous for chasing big game with poisoned arrows. So Hawkes did something simple. She counted. She tracked how often a hunter going after large animals came home with nothing, and the numbers were brutal. A man hunting big game failed on most days. If your goal were simply to feed your own children, you would do far better gathering honey, trapping small animals, digging tubers. Steady food, reliable calories. So why chase the giant prey at all? Because of what happens when you succeed. When a Hadza hunter kills something large, he does not get to keep it. The meat is divided across the whole camp, and he often has little say in how. His own family ends up with no more than anyone else. He took all the risk. He absorbed all the failure, and then he gave nearly all of it away. Hawkes proposed an idea that researchers still argue over today. She called it the show-off hypothesis. The thought was this: big game hunting is not really about food at all. It is a signal, a way of broadcasting to everyone watching that you are skilled enough, brave enough, and generous enough to take that risk and then hand the reward to the group. The meat feeds bellies, but the act feeds your reputation. Scientists have a name for this kind of behavior. They call it costly signaling. The principle is that the most believable way to prove you have a rare quality is to do something expensive and hard to fake. A weak man cannot convincingly pretend to bring down a giraffe. The cost is the whole point. It is what makes the message true. You can watch the same logic play out on the other side of the world. On Mer, a small island in the Torres Strait off Australia, the anthropologists Rebecca Bleachbird, Eric Alden Smith, and Douglas Bird studied turtle hunting among the Meriam people. Hunting large sea turtles is dangerous, exhausting, and a terrible way to gather calories for your own household. The catch gets shared at public feasts. Yet certain young men keep doing it. And the researchers found that the men who took on that costly, public risk earned something measurable in return. Better reputations, more social standing, and in many foraging societies, men with strong hunting reputations went on to have more partners and more surviving children. There is the first crack in the obvious story. The reward did not flow to the man who kept the most. It flowed to the man who gave the most away in front of everyone. But that only sharpens the puzzle, because if generosity buys status, why would your tribe mock the very kill you carried home? Why insult the meat? For the answer, look at what your ancestors feared even more than hunger. They feared a man who started to believe he was above them. The anthropologist Christopher Boehm spent decades comparing foraging societies all over the planet, and in 1999, he gathered it into a book called Hierarchy in the Forest. His conclusion cuts against almost everything you have been told about human nature. Boehm argued that foraging bands were fiercely, deliberately equal. Not because people lacked ambition, but because the group actively crushed anyone who tried to rise above the rest. He gave it a name, the reverse dominance hierarchy. In an ordinary hierarchy, the strong dominate the weak. In a reverse dominance hierarchy, the many band together to dominate the one who would be strong. The moment a man grew arrogant, hoarded, or started giving orders, the group pushed back. First with teasing, then with ridicule. Then, if he still would not soften, with shunning, where the band simply acted as if he no longer existed. And in the most extreme cases, with execution. Sit with what shunning meant out there. You could not survive alone. Not through a dry season, not through a sickness, not through a single hard winter. To be ignored by the people whose hands kept you alive was a slow death sentence. As Boehm put it, in that world, arrogance itself became a kind of crime. So now the laughter at your kill makes sense. It was not envy, it was medicine. The anthropologist Richard Lee saw this with his own eyes among the Ju-Twansi of the Kalahari Desert, a foraging people sometimes called the San. Lee wanted to thank them, so for a Christmas feast he bought the largest, fattest ox he could find. He expected gratitude. Instead, for days, everyone told him the ox was old, thin, and worthless, a sad pile of skin and bones that would leave them all hungry. Lee was baffled and a little hurt, until a Ju-Tuan man finally explained the custom to him. The explanation is one of the most quietly profound things ever recorded about human beings. When a young man kills a great deal of meat, the man told Lei, he can come to think of himself as a chief or a big man, and to think of the rest of us as his inferiors. That, the people would not allow. So they always speak of his meat as worthless, not to wound him, to cool his heart and make him gentle. To cool his heart, that was the goal. Your tribe insulted your kill so that the kill would not poison you. So if a man could not buy status with meat, and could not seize it with strength, and was leveled the instant he reached for it, then where did real security actually come from? It came from the web, from the relationships a man built and tended over a lifetime. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years documenting a Ju-Tuan practice called Hxaro. Hxaro is a system of delayed gift exchange. You give a partner something you value. Not as a trade, and not for anything in return that day, but to open a bond that may last for decades. Over a lifetime, a person built up a wide network of these partners scattered across the land. And that network was the real wealth. Because when your own water hole dried up, when the game vanished from your territory, when disaster came for your family, you did not have a savings account to draw on. You had people. You had a man 4 days walk away who remembered the arrow you gave him 20 years ago and who would now feed your children. That was the true currency of the ancient world, not what you could hold, but who would hold you up. So picture an ordinary day in that life, with all of this running underneath it. You wake before the others and slip out to hunt. You fail the next day too. On the third day you bring down something large and you carry it home knowing exactly what waits for you. The jokes, the insults, the old woman and her rabbits. You set the carcass down, and you let them carve it apart and carry it to every fire in the camp, including the fires of people who gave you nothing today. You take a humble share. You laugh along when they mock you. And in doing all of that, without a single word about it, you have just told the whole group everything that matters. That you are capable, that you are generous, that you can be relied on, that you will never try to rule them. You have not lost status by giving the meat away and swallowing the insults. You have earned the only kind of status that was ever safe to have. And here is the twist that should reorganize how you see the whole thing. In the world that shaped your mind and your body, value was never something a man could take. It was a verdict that other people handed down about him. Your strength could not vote. Your kill could not vote. Only the group could decide what you were worth, and they decided it by watching what you did with whatever power you got. The strongest, greediest, most dominant man was not the high-value man. He was the dangerous one, the one they watched, the one they were quietly preparing to bring back down. Now look at the world you actually live in. You have been handed the opposite story almost from birth, that your value is a number you accumulate, money in an account, followers on a screen, the size of the thing you can show the world and the dominance you can project over the people around you. Build the pile high enough, the story says, and you will finally be worth something. But the mind judging all of that is still the ancient one. It is still running software written around the firelight. It still reads generosity as strength and hoarding as weakness. It still trusts the man who shares the kill over the man who guards it. It still, somewhere deep down, goes cold around the one who needs everyone to know he is on top. That instinct in you, that respects the person who gives quietly and distrusts the one who brags, that is not modern manners. That is 300,000 years old. The men who survived to become your ancestors were almost never the ones who took the most. They were the ones others chose to keep alive. The skilled who stayed humble. The strong who stayed gentle. The ones who carried the kill home and then gave it away, and were richer for it in the only currency that ever truly counted. So walk back into that camp at dusk with the kill across your shoulders. Everyone sees it. But the animal was never the thing that made you valuable. What made you valuable was what you did the moment you set it down, how little of it you kept, and how many people, years later and miles away, would still rise in the dark to carry you home.